Hi, welcome back, and in this video I want to talk to you about this. It's the Lumix LX1, so Panasonic DMC LX1 to be absolutely precise. Hopefully that will focus on there. It's a 8 megapixel CCD sensor camera from 2005 this came out, as well as being sold under the Lumix brand as the LX1. It was actually also sold as a Leica as the D-Lux2, and the lens on it, which hopefully you can see there, let's get in nice and close and hopefully that will focus, is a 28 to 112 millimeter full frame equivalent, 4 times crop on the sensor, and an f2.8 to 4.9. It's an incredibly good lens. It's really nice, really sharp, and as you can see, the camera itself is absolutely tiny. Just for a size comparison, this is my Minox 35EL, so one of the smallest 35mm cameras ever made, and as you can see, size-wise, it's not a great deal difference, particularly if you pop the actual lens out for the Minox, and if we switch on the LX1, you can see quite a comparable size. In fact, when you've got the telephoto lens zoomed all the way out, they're actually very, very close in size there. Now, what's this like to shoot in this day and age, in 2023? Is this worth picking up? Now, new, they retailed for £400, or I think just under $600 at launch in 2005. And as I say, 8 megapixel CCD sensor. Now, a couple of things that are fairly interesting about this. First one is, in keeping with a lot of the LX series, if you have a look just there, you'll see that we've got the ability to actually change the crop ratio. So we've got 16:9, 4:3, and 3:2. But in most cameras of this nature that shoot 16:9, that's actually cropping the top and the bottom off of the captured sensor, so you're losing pixels. On the LX1, the sensor is actually a 16:9 ratio itself, so you actually get all of the sensor by using 16:9 and the 4:3 and 3:2 crop. So as a result, I tend to shoot on 16:9 all the time and then crop in afterwards, making the most use of all of the pixels on the little sensor. It also has, as you will have seen from the top, just there, a full range of modes: aperture priority, shutter priority, manual, and a variety of program and scene type modes. Now, it obviously doesn't, because of its size, have any dials, so it's actually got a little joystick on the back just there that you use to change those. So depending on which mode you're in, up and down will either adjust the shutter speed or the aperture. If you're in manual, up and down adjusts whichever one you've got selected, and then left and right switches between aperture and the shutter. In terms of ISO range, ASA range, call it what you want, it is a bit limited. That's not a big surprise given that it came out in 2005. Only actually has 4 film speeds, so to speak: 80, 100, 200 and 400. And I want to come back and talk about those a little bit later on, because they are arguably one of the Achilles heels of the camera. Now, the other thing is, it will also shoot in RAW. In fact, it will shoot JPEG, RAW and TIFF, depending on what you want to go for. So that's actually quite nice, but again, is one of the other limitations, particularly the RAW capture, that we'll come back and talk about. In terms of storage, it uses SD cards, 2 gig maximum on there, which does limit you a little bit, and the batteries are absolutely tiny and it will eat its way through them, particularly if you are shooting in RAW. So what are the pros and cons of this? Well, the first one is that the lens quality on it is absolutely excellent. It really is a great little lens, and that more than stands up in 2023, you know, almost 20 years after its introduction, it definitely still stands up. It's actually got quite a good close focusing mode. It's got a switch on the side of the lens just there that allows you to switch between manual focus. Don't use that because you have to use the little joystick to try and focus, and it's practically impossible. Close focus and normal autofocus. Now the close focus will get you down to 5 centimeters with the lens on its widest setting. That's actually really quite impressive and does give you some really good results. So excellent lens. It is, due to its size, pretty pocketable. I can pop this in the back pocket of my jeans, pop it in a bag, some jacket pockets, and as a result I do tend to carry it around with me an awful lot. It's also nicely made. One thing I do like is that the Panasonic version has a little grip on the front, which does actually work quite well. The Leica version, if you go and have a look at pictures of the D-Lux2, doesn't have that, and whilst I've never held one, I actually think that'd be quite a disadvantage, but it does hold in the hand quite nicely. So it is well made. The 16:9 sensor is really nice. I really do enjoy that. As I say, you can shoot JPEG, RAW and TIFF on it, so that's really handy. Those JPEGs and RAW files are actually really quite editable in post. You can do quite a bit with them and push them quite a bit, which is quite nice. And of course, it's a CCD sensor, which means you've got some great colour rendition on it, and people do absolutely love them for that. Now the downsides are the images are very noisy. 80 and 100 they're workable with, particularly in this day and age if you use noise reduction software. I tend to use Topaz Photo AI or Topaz D-Noise on it, and I can get the 80 and the 100s to a more than reasonable quality out of that. 200 is a little bit harder, and 400 really is a challenge. Now I'm going to pop up a couple of images that I shot at 400 ASA now, and one of the things that you will see here with these is there's an awful lot of grain still present, and even with good noise reduction software, there's so much noise that you're given a choice between either having a really soft image or sticking with the grain, whacking it over to black and white and kind of like doing a faux film look with it, and it's still a little bit soft, and that's what I tend to do. So if I'm shooting at particularly 400 ASA, I will tend to go down that route. Now, it's also incredibly slow when you're shooting RAW. So JPEG, it's quick enough and you can whack off shots. I think it does about 3 frames per second when you're shooting in JPEG. But the second you switch over to RAW, literally you are counting about 2-3 seconds for it to finish writing to the card, and you cannot do anything while it's writing to the card. So I actually took this out with my Praktica MTL3, which is a 35mm manual film camera with a manual wind on, and it's actually quicker to shoot than this is. I'm just whack myself in the face with the wrist strap there. So it's quicker to shoot than this is. So if you are going to shoot RAW, you are going to need to be contemplating your shots, and it's not for action. But being perfectly honest, the camera isn't really an action camera at all. Other issues with it is shooting in RAW absolutely eats through the battery as well, and the RAW files are quite large. So they're definitely not compressed in any way, shape or form, but they're also not particularly well optimized. So they are very large in that regard. Just to give you an idea, they clock in at about the same file size as RAW images out of my Olympus EM1 Mark II, which is a 20 megapixel micro four thirds camera, and this is an 8 megapixel tiny little sensor. I can't remember what sensor size it is, so you know that is a little bit of a downside on it. The other issue is no electronic viewfinder, so you are purely using the screen on the back there, and it's not great in sunlight or sunny conditions at all. Now that I'm sure won't come as a big surprise to you, it's a camera from 2005. So the big question, will I keep using it, and should you go and buy one? Well, I picked this one up with 4 batteries for £60 on eBay, which is an absolute steal, in all honesty. It was a great price. It's in really nice condition. Came with the 4 batteries, the charger, even came with the original memory card, back from the days when they supplied memory cards in cameras. So at that price, yes, absolutely. I use it, I carry it, I still will carry on doing that because it's great. I would say if you can pick them up for less than 100, it's an interesting camera to use. Just be aware of its limitations, and you have to work around them, particularly shooting in RAW and at the 200 or 400 ASAs. You're going to have to be a lot more contemplative about what you're shooting and how you're shooting. At 80 or 100 on JPEG, you can use it pretty much as a point and shoot. Oh, I did forget to mention, it does have a pop-up flash. I don't tend to use it because it is very harsh, so I just tend to use the camera in situations where I'm not going to need the flash. But again, that does limit it. But it is an interesting little camera, and it's arguably a very cheap way of owning what is a Leica, arguably. I know some people will disagree with that, but this is the real star of it, is the sensor combined with the lens, which is absolutely excellent. So that is the Panasonic Lumix DMC LX1 in 2023. Interesting camera, fun to use, capable of great results, but you've got to be aware of its limitations and work with them, because you're not going to be getting a lot of them edited out in post. As long as you can do that, it's a great fun little camera, particularly if you can pick one up for the kind of price I did. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you found this interesting or enjoyed this, please do hit the like and subscribe button, and I will be back to you soon. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.